And today it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Sam Mostyn, who is from Sydney, Australia. Hello, Sam. How are you today?
Really well, thanks, Pamela. Lovely to be joining you.
What other trends that are occurring, do you think?
What we actually saw at COP was the confirmation that we've stopped debating the science. We've stopped debating the link between human-induced climate change and great extreme weather and other cataclysmic events. We've accepted that. And so what's now, what I think the fastest thing that has happened is at Paris, so at the COP that actually created the targets that we now work to for 2030 and 2050. That was the moment that said, actually now it's about speed and commitment of nation states to achieving retaining Australia, the global climate at 1.5 degrees warming. We know that even with all of the commitments made, even at COP, we may hold to 1.9, and that has big implications for the world.
That we are in general agreement that this is the decade where we actually have to see some action. COP26, one of the goals was to try and get coal out, not coal down. And I think that last minute change was quite a surprise and quite disappointing for many. What do you think is going to be the reality over the next decade as a result of that last minute change?
The optimist in me says, it's great to have a statement that says coal down. It's great to have had many nations who actually wanted much harder language. It was a group of countries, and I'm sad to say Australia is one of them, that doesn't want to let go of that moment to say we want to keep coal-fired powered stations and coal-related businesses going. And our governments and many of those leading opponents to climate change here in Australia have continued to talk about, great, well that means we can keep on building coal plants. But they're wrong, of course, because actually, coal down is code really for we're now on that ambition.
Coal's going to be extinct sometime soon. Massive changes have occurred through the pandemic, and I'm wondering, do you think that the learning from the pandemic will help us with facing this challenge with the climate change? Do you think it'll give us a sense of being able to let go of our fears about what might happen, and so that we can move forward to the new thinking?
Goodness, I hope so, because the pandemic was one of the great disruptions. It affected us all globally in very similar ways. We all had to reconceive of what life would be like when none of us could travel, none of us could leave our homes. And in that moment, we were able to see that, as you say, those things that were in preparation, and even those that had been thinking about it, suddenly had to make decisions very quickly and live by them and make sure they could work to sustain our economies and sustain the things that just needed to keep being done. So.
What do you think, from Australia's point of view, it needs to do? And from the federal government's point of view, what does it need to do in the next 12 months to be able to meet those 2030 goals?
So just straight up, the Australian government's got to actually lean into the 2030 timeframe and not keep on saying we're at 2050 and somehow our roadmap will get us to 2030 just because we trust technology will suddenly emerge. They've got to be intentional and purposeful, and they've got to listen to what's happening in the capital markets and the private sector, because that is rapidly moving. And the consequence of them not doing it is as much about what they failed to do with the attraction of other capital to the country.
And I've got this map here, which was produced by the World Bank in April this year. The map shows the countries that have an emission trading scheme or a carbon tax, or one that is scheduled to be put in place in the next few months or year, or ones that are under consideration. That's what the three different green, yellow and purple colours mean. Australia has no colour of either three, which means it's not under consideration, it's not scheduled, and it's not in place. Would you tell us what the conversation is in Australia and why it's not underway, this conversation?
Yeah, well, thank you for showing that screen. It's a really important one. And of course, as an Australian, it makes me very sad. Back in 2004-05, 6 leading Australian companies that represented insurance, banking, fossil fuel sector, a broad range of climate impacted big organisations came together to found the Australian Business Roundtable on Climate Change. And so that report was presented to the then Prime Minister Howard in 2006, and he took to the 2007 election a commitment for a form of carbon pricing through an emissions trading system. We then got stuck in the mire of an ideological discussion from 2007 onwards, and we've not come out of it. With our election coming up, it will be again the debate. And our current Prime Minister has said it's all about technology, and I don't want to commit us to anything.